Hi and welcome to day one of our 10-day video series masterclass to help you transform from unrelatable to unstoppable, rearranging the pieces to transcend the weight of other people's expectations, unlocking the true power, and transforming your life without wasting your time and without trying to squeeze into places you no longer belong. So today we're talking about identifying your unrelatable advantage and unique rhythm. And you might be wondering, why am I sitting in a car recording this masterclass? Like, come on, Sara, you didn't plan for it. You couldn't sit up in the office. You couldn't look professional. I totally get it, and I'm doing this on purpose to make the point that we all do things in our own way, and what is appropriate has gone through the window a long time ago, especially for unconventional women, the ones who I dare to say get to be in my circles. So when we're talking about identifying unrelatable advantage, like what is unrelatable advantage? Well, some would call it competitive advantage. Some would call it unfair advantage. But since we're talking about being unrelatable, and since we're talking about being unconventional, and perhaps we just get to stick with unconventional, unrelatable advantage. What it means, to finally get to the point, I'd like to invite you to either take out a journal or take out a voice recording memo and start recalling events, start recalling quirks, start recalling characteristics that are unique to you, that looking backwards were the ones that really formed those stepping stones to get you to where you are right now, that unlocked all the magic and called in all the miracles and gave you the strength, gave you the resilience, allowed you to really tap into your own magic, right? When life went sideways, when shit hit the fan, and also when all the best things came into your life. What are those things? What are those characteristics? What are those quirks? Most of the clients that I get to work with, and those are some of the most highly accomplished women who on paper they do have it all, and the world looks at them at awe, thinking they're untouchable. But when we get together, I hear just how hard they had to work to compensate, overly compensate actually, for hiding and minimizing and suppressing all these quirks and characteristics that actually should be highlighted in bold italic font, embellished, bedazzled, and presented as gifts. And those are your unrelatable advantages. Me personally, one of the things that really work for me being a generator in human design is I respond. Standing and sitting in the office, trying to come up with topics to talk about, trying to come up with answers to imaginary questions, that's kind of not my style. But when I get an opportunity to respond, I start literally channeling, and the stream of consciousness comes through, and oftentimes I would end up wondering, like, what did I just say? I have no recollection of what just happened because, like I said, it's this stream of consciousness, but it has to be in a response. So the reason I'm sitting here in the car right now is, as I was driving around, running errands, interacting with people along the way, I opened those channels, and it just so happened that all the bullet points that I set in my office and tried to outline preparing for day one of this 10-day masterclass series literally streamed through. And you know what? Speaking of unique rhythms, this is where the magic gets to happen. I get to sit in a car surrounded by hustle and bustle of New York, and I get to teach you, and I get to share this with you, and I get to give you, not that you need one, but if you do, may this be a pink permission slip for you to find your own and to really capitalize on those gifts of yours, the ones that you tried so hard to hide and then ended up half of your life overcompensating for that lack, that void, right? So like I said, a lot of those women, and myself included, I let me perhaps share that, right? Up to the age of 30, I have accomplished more than I could ever ask for and more than most people ever will. I'm not hiding that. It is what it is. But it cost me greatly because I was not aware that this success that I had built, results that I had created, and the accomplishments that I got to tick off were built on predicament of lack, wounds, the need to prove myself, the need to justify me belonging somewhere. I will never forget when I got invited to play for a national team for the first time at the age of 14. I wasn't sure if I should feel proud or not because I was raised to be very humble. So when this invitation came in, I was like, well, okay, is it supposed to be a special thing? I don't know. But I walked into the gym to start a practice, and I overheard one of my teammates and a coach talk about how they couldn't believe I was even considered for the national team because all I had was height, right? In that moment, I remember feeling this disconnect from my own body. And I started to believe that, oh yes, all these opportunities that would follow, at 16 playing for a senior national team, at 18 being a team captain at European Championship, at 20 being recruited to play for Division 1 team here in New York. I had this notion that all of those doors opened just because I was tall, not of who I was as a being. There was just some separation between my body and the rest of my talents, I guess. Yes, at the same time, however, something moved inside of me, and there was this a fire. There was like, I'm going to show you that I do belong here. And I'm going to prove to everybody who ever could doubt that I have just as much right to be here as anybody else. In fact, this is my court. This is my house. And I put in the work. I worked harder and harder and harder because I wanted to catch up with all these players who most of them were like 5, 10, even 15 years older than I was until I came to the States to play college. But yeah, that same mindset, the same mentality served me really, really well after I lost my job. And I started a business because at the same time when I lost my job, I also found out I was pregnant. What I knew back then was that I did not belong into 9 to 5, sitting in somebody else's office, ticking off the boxes of their expectations. I had a vision to work from home, from anywhere in the world, and to really help make a real difference. And I remember talking to a gentleman as we were commuting to work every morning and then returning every evening before I got laid off. I shared my vision with him, and he said, stop dreaming. That doesn't exist. Businesses don't run that way, But there was this little inkling, there was this little seed, and I was holding on to it. And sure enough, I ended up building that business, and I ended up doing all of those things many years before working from home, working from anywhere in the world, and being impact driven became a thing. But I wanted to, again, just repeat that, this one thing that's ignited within you is that thing that will separate you, is that thing that will bring you over the edge, is the thing that will not only be the thing that pushes you, but if you allow it, it will be now the force that allows you to sail through and opens the door for you without you trying to elbow your way. You can ease and soften into receiving. All you have to do is allow yourself to identify your unrelatable advantage and your own unique rhythm. Um, Speaking of unique rhythm, as unconventional mystic myself, my rhythm has been greatly impacted by the rhythm of my own kids. Working from home, raising them at the same time. By the time we figured out we had the routine down, well, no, it went through the window and went back to the drawing board we went. However, I did notice that some days I am better at performing certain tasks than others. Mondays, I feel deeply inspired for writing. By the way, Monday is ruled by moon, which means time for introspection. So ultimately, my own rhythm led to dropping all and any calls, meetings for Monday. Meetings are quiet days. Friday, I'm usually energized and very communicative and yes, it's in many ways the Friday is supposed to be the day you take off for yourself or self-care. My kind of self-care is to be fully expressive and serving and showing up and having fun. So Fridays are usually the days I look forward to do the work, not to unplug. Um, so again, I invite you to be mindful as you go through your week, as you go through the month. What is your rhythm? And for women in particular, now I'm not going to go too deep into biology itself, but your menstrual cycle will affect that rhythm as well. And if you can give yourself permission to work with it, as against forcing your body against it, a whole new universe opens up. And that's what I'm talking about here when we talk about, rearranging the pieces. The pieces that have been put in place by conventional wisdom, by societal norms, by generational programming, you get to now take a step back, re-examine them, reevaluate them, disconfigure, if you will, and rearrange them. Reimagine the possible in new ways, in your way, in a way that works for you. Because at the end of the day, when you're the one who shoulders the weight of the world, you kind of owe it to yourself and to them to be at your best. And you cannot be at your best when you're trying to squeeze yourself into boxes that are not being designed to support you, when you're trying to clip your own wings for the comfort of others, when you're trying to keep up with the Joneses and keep up with the rhythm that has nothing to do with being at your best. So give yourself that permission. And even when you are in the arena where perhaps you don't have the freedom and the command of your time 24/7, if you're a mom, that's the case. If you are an executive, when you have, hundreds of employees reporting to you and you're somehow responsible for them, yeah, that's the case too. When you're a business owner and you work with clients, yeah, that might be the case as well. When you're an athlete and you work with team and you have your game scheduled, yeah, AKA, in other words, there's never going to be a time when you're 100% independent. There's always going to be one situation or another when you will have to align and adjust and adapt. But even in those moments, then what it comes down to is the attitude, right? Is the attitude that you're tapping into the attitude from which you operate. There it is. Is it the attitude of victimhood, or is it the growth mindset? Is it the expansiveness? Is it the limitless possibilities, awareness of the possibilities itself? That will determine your next move and the next doors that are going to open or shut down. And again, this is so important because we can only push and force so much. And I'm not even talking about the energetics right now. I'm talking simply physical 3D reality. I have been through burnout. I have been through the dark night of the soul. I know how excruciating painful it is to be admitted to the ER because of the anxiety and panic attack and thinking you have a heart attack because you overextend yourself for everybody else, because you keep ignoring your own needs. My body developed autoimmune diseases because I ignored what I knew I should do, because I don't know, it wasn't painful enough until it was. So I invite you again to re-examine your routine, re-examine your attitude, re-examine your approach to it. Can be the most insignificant thing as a part of your routine, but when you start paying attention, when you expand this awareness and you start feeling into decisions that you're making, things you're making yourself available for, attention and focus that you're paying to certain people, certain events, certain things, you start noticing, is that energizing you or is it draining you? And then you start noticing and you start tracking. And when you start tracking, you can see the patterns. And when you can see the patterns, now the reverse engineering can take place, because now you can really leverage those insights to go back to, as we said at the very beginning, rearranging the pieces. So there you have it. Day one, identify unrelatable advantage and your own unique rhythm. And tomorrow we're going to be diving deeper into determining your energetic blueprint and unapologetic application of it on a daily basis. I hope this serves you. If you have any questions, do let me know. If you're new here, I should have introduced myself earlier, but forgive my enthusiasm to dive right in. My name is Sara Oblak Speicher. I'm a former elite athlete turned my mindset coach, transformational mentor, and strategist to remarkable women who already have accomplished so much and know that so much more is still available to them. You don't have to subscribe to anything in order to receive and be able to watch the rest of the series. However, if you do want to be notified when a new video is posted, send me a connection request. Follow me, whether it's here on LinkedIn or on YouTube or whatever this video is that you're seeing. And if you have questions, send me a message. I'll be more than happy to answer it, especially on day 10. We have a Q&A. So yeah, here to support you in any way that I can. As I mentioned in the introductory video, this whole masterclass series bases on the framework of the work that we do within the Unrelatable to Unstoppable micro mastermind that's reserved only to 5 women who are willing to make a significant investment in themselves. However, the frameworks can be applicable and implemented by anybody, which is why I felt so passionately about simply sharing them through this free masterclass. And I hope you receive them. I hope you find value in them. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Take care.